Welcome back. I mean, we are so back. In fact, we are so back. Obviously, I haven't been posting in a little while. That is mainly because I've been a little busy in real life and working on some other things the last few weeks. Okay. But we're back. I'm back to normality now. Obviously, it's been a few weeks. I've not actually been manual trading um, properly, to be honest, the last few weeks too. Uh, and it is what it is. So I'm going to be back to it again this week, and I actually can't wait to be back into it. So I want to do a weekly outlook for next week, okay? And we're going to fly through some charts. Am I going to do altcoins? Might leave it for another video, okay? So we're going to go through gold first, and I made a post on X, okay, and I said gold has topped. I 100% believe gold has topped. There is actually, in my opinion, no shadow of doubt. Just remember, none of this is financial advice, okay? It's purely educational and informational purposes only. But I believe gold is topped, and there was a lot of reasons why I believe gold is topped. First of all, you had everyone queuing the streets, okay, to buy gold, right, and buy silver, which is absolutely insanity when it's over $4,000. Okay, it's just absolutely crazy. And you had obviously a lot of people screaming, shouting, buy gold, buy gold, buy gold, buy gold. But no one wanted to buy gold when it was time to buy gold. Everyone only wants to buy when it's far too late. Okay, so you had a bit of that, what I like to call sentiment bias, which indicated to me, okay, well, sentiment is really, really euphoric for gold now. It's about time we begin to pull back, right? So now you're going to start getting a lot of people sort of a little bit shaky into those, a lot of retail people, by the way, a little bit shaky into those positions going, oh, well, I've just bought gold at the right at the top. Should I, begin to sell? But, this is how everything works, right? And, gold has gone on a crazy, crazy run at the end of the day. And a very, 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 very easy, and I mean super easy way of just positioning, okay, trend following, right? Just use trend following. A lot of people sort of fade the momentum trading and trend following. And I don't, I typically when I'm trading, day trading, yes, I do swing trade as well. I will use trend following purely for confidence purposes, right? Because there's two ways we can use trend following. There's momentum trading, okay? That is long-term trend following. You want to trade with the trend, you want to trade the momentum. And then the second is mean reversion. Okay, mean reversion is, in my opinion, exactly what we're about to see in gold right now. And it's going to be absolutely unbelievable. And just remember, think of like how market cycles work and what usually happens to end sort of how do I explain it, a run, okay, a really nice run, is you enter this phase of euphoria, which is a parabolic phase and a melt up, right? Which is this, okay? This is the weekly time frame. This is the melt up in gold, right? This is the parabola. Okay, in fact, we've been parabolic for quite a while, to be honest. Now, if we look at this purely from this is my indicator, this is the 200-week SMA, and you can see that the 200-week SMA, the last time we had a meaningful bear market was 2013, and it was optimal time to be positioning, obviously, into longs and then trading the momentum. Now, if you're a momentum trader, you don't the way you can think about it is, yes, a value investor would look at this and go, all right, well, sentiment is really, really bad, and you're in a bear regime, and it's bear market. Maybe now, as far as value goes and fair value, it's really discounted. I'll now start buying. Well, momentum traders go, well, I'm not going to start buying here or averaging in here. I'm going to trade once the trend gives me confirmation. Okay, and that's when I'm going to begin averaging in. So you'd average in, for example, here, flip into a bull regime. Yes, it was a fake out. This happens. You average a bit in there. You average a bit in over here again. Yes, you have a little bit of a loss here. You average a bit again over here, right? You see where I'm going, and then you have the big momentum trade, right? And then you just hold. You just hold, and hold, and ultimately you just wait for these really big melt up moves, okay, which you can see we had a big melt up over here, all right, and then what did we do? We mean reverted, okay, right, mean reverted right back to the 200 week SMA. Same scenario over here, okay, and then you have this massive melt up parabolic phase, and now what are we likely going to do? Okay, mean revert. So I 100% believe gold is topped. I said this, a few weeks ago. I believe gold is topped. Anyone buying gold here is absolutely just out of their minds. And in my opinion, we've already begun that mean reversion. Okay, so my only interest with gold at the moment is being short. Right, you can also see regime duration. Right, this is a very good table. This, as I said, my indicator, because this is actually telling us we've been in a bull regime in gold for 528 days. 528 days. Okay, if you look at the weekly, it should say 156 weeks. Right, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. Okay, there's a little bit of other data there as well that's useful. So, it's kind of like, what else do you expect? Was we really going to trade 5,000s? Was we really going to trade 4,600s? Right? It doesn't matter. You begin averaging out. So I now believe we're going to begin to mean revert, and I'm 100% positioning into shorts, right? And that's all I care about. So yes, 200-day SMA, similar scenario. Okay, is the 200-week SMA, right? You have the big melt up, okay, purely trend following, and then you begin to mean revert as this begins to do what? As this begins to climb up, okay, and then you sort of mean revert back down to it, okay, probably lose it for a little while, and then you begin to trade higher again, okay. So that's what I think with gold at the moment. As I said, completely believe it's topped. The likes of NQ, I'm not actually going to go too much in the likes of the Nasdaq and stuff, to be honest, because at the end of the day, I believe that they're going to enter this melt up phase now. Okay, same with the S&P 500. I believe we are beginning the melt up. Obviously, we've had this big gap up, which we've retraced in now, which is obviously very important. So we retrace into this gap. You look for longs. I think we're going to enter this melt up again. We haven't retraced into the gap on NQ, but we have on ES. All right, so a little bit of a difference between them two, but that can happen, right? So I think we are entering a melt up phase in the likes of equities. Obviously, Dow Jones, YM needs to obviously trade higher, but again, I absolutely think equities are going to trade into new all-time highs, right? Obviously, the likes of gold, as I said, I believe that's gold. I believe it's topped. I believe silver is topped. Right, so Bitcoin is probably the more interesting thing, and that's Bitcoin at the moment. And we'll look at this from a weekly time frame, right? I believe that it might not happen this next week. Who knows if it might happen this year? But again, I'm looking at this purely from a probabilities point of view, right? That's the key word, is probabilities. Is I am looking for Bitcoin to trade eventually, right? Yes, I do see confirmations and signals of bearish confirmation, should I say. I do believe we're going to retrace to the 93,000 higher time frame key level, which is the fulfillment of this weekly CISD. A lot of people are getting struck out of their positions because they don't know what Bitcoin's going to do here, right? But as I say all the time, we're consolidating and we're consolidating at all-time highs, right? Am I looking for longs or shorts here? Well, if I'm a sort of, an investor, if I'm a long-term, if I'm a momentum trader, swing trader, anything like that, I'm going probabilities-wise. Well, why would I start positioning long here? It doesn't make any sense. I want to be positioned short. If I've got holdings in Bitcoin, I'd be looking to exit. All right. Okay, and yes, we might get a squeeze up to 140,000. That is another target that I've had for, again, some time. But do I favour probabilities of us doing that to 140,000 before returning to this level? Obviously not. So I do think probabilities favour us retracing here. Then I'd want to see us hold this level. Okay, and then I would want to see us trade obviously 140,000, right? Obviously, of course, I'm looking at all this from a technical point of view, and not so much of a what do I think is fundamentally going to happen. Okay, um, so yeah, that's what I kind of think with Bitcoin at the moment, and a lot of people are obviously getting chopped up at the moment because all we're doing here is consolidating. So it's like, I'm not gonna look at trading long or short here, right? I need to see more confirmations personally. And if we look at this from a, again, don't fade trend following point of view, you got 200-week SMA slowly climbing. And again, what does that look like? Well, you got the big momentum trade up, haven't you? So what do we eventually do? Well, we eventually begin to mean revert, right, back to the 200-week SMA, just like we did back over here. Big momentum, right? Begin to mean revert there, mean revert here. Obviously, of course, we enter the bear market. That's where you want to begin entering longs again. Okay. So again, trend following, right? You want to ride the trend as long as you can possibly ride it, and then you want to be able to short the mean reversion trade back to the overall sort of trend and structure. Okay. 200-day SMA is obviously actually being held at the moment. Okay, so that does indicate that we are still in a bit of a bull regime, right? Whether or not that holds, we don't know. Okay, of course, tonight is obviously weekly close. Okay, but as you will notice, if we go, if we have a look at obviously the weekly structure here, okay, which is right, this structure right here, is we have, okay, this is previous week range, right? We will go to the monthly time frame very quickly too. This is previous week range, right? What have we done? Well, we've taken both sides of this weekly candle. What are we doing now? Okay, well, we're consolidating. We're consolidating back inside previous week range, and we're consolidating within a larger range and structure, aren't we? Right, so there are a couple of key things you need to keep a note of at the moment. And I like trading manipulation, right? I want to trade premium and discount, extreme premium and extreme discount, the whole idea of isometric risk reward, right? So this at the moment, yes, we're, in my opinion, at extreme premium because we're at all-time highs, right? Very evident we're at all-time highs. But then if you take this little mini sort of structure, that consolidation that we've got here, there's nothing you can do because we're just consolidating at the equilibrium of this previous week range. Okay, so if we go to the daily time frame, hopefully it gives us a little bit more of a clue. You can see previous week low, you can see previous week high over here. Okay, what did we do? We manipulated previous week high, which is there. Okay, and there's a couple of other things, of course, that we did as well. So if we can get rid of that, right, let's stick our magnet back on. Okay, you can see, right, we manipulated buy side liquidity, okay, which is there. All right, you can see we traded into a large SIBI, okay, daily sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency, which you can see we traded right into, okay, and rejected from, right? So you can see, previous week high was our drawn liquidity, which we manipulated just here. So if we're looking at this from a sort of a trading point of view, then we have let's have a think. We have, okay, accumulation, right, in this up close candle, which is here. Okay, manipulation, right, this is sort of the earliest sign that the move is going to reverse. And then we have the big distribution sort of move, which is there. Okay, right? Okay, and then where did we trade to? Well, we just traded to opposing side liquidity of previous week range, right? So if this is previous week low and this is previous week high, and we manipulated previous week high, we traded buy side liquidity, we traded into the high time frame PD array, then what's our target? Okay, well, our target is previous week low, which we swept just there. Okay, that's where our sweep is. Okay, so we manipulate previous week low and then we trade to where? The equilibrium of previous week range. Right, so this weekly close is important because if we show weakness at this level, okay, then it's likely going to give us further confirmation that we're going to trade lower. Okay, ideally you would want to see us close, sort of within the big daily SIBI or with above the previous week high, which it doesn't look like we're going to get at the moment, does it? Okay, so there are a few things that I'm obviously looking at the moment, and then sort of overall, right, this is obviously which you've got there. You've got the turtle soup, which is here. Okay, you've got this, which is, what do you think this is? Okay, this is our bearish CISD. Okay, and I wanted to point out, and I think I pointed this out in the last YouTube video or the last video with it. Can't remember where I actually put it now. Is we have a 3 drives bullish reversal over here. Okay, right, 1 drive, 2 drive, 3 drive. Right, this is a 3 drives bearish reversal pattern. So, as I said, there's a few signals and confirmations at the moment that are indicating to me that returning to this level is much more probabilistic than trading to a new all-time high at 140,000. Right, that's purely my point of view. Okay, as I said, this is not financial advice. It's purely informational, educational only. But if I was a betting man and if I had to think about this in probabilities and as far as technicals go, then I would really like to see us trade to this level first. Okay, and this would fulfill this weekly CISD we had over here. So can you see how we have a weekly bullish CISD which was here, and we've now got a weekly bearish CISD of a very similar nature, just the opposite. So that's a few things I'm looking at over the minute. What can invalidate this and all these other bearish signals that I'm sort of seeing at the moment is we'll close above the CISD level, right? Close above here and trade higher. Simple as that. Simple as that. But we are showing weakness. We're showing weakness here, okay? We're showing weakness at the previous week range because we're just underneath equilibrium. And, ultimately, we're going to lose one side of this, okay, this larger range that we've got going on, okay? Because at the moment, and this is probably, to be honest, a bit of a key point, is all we are doing at the moment, okay, is if you look at where we've manipulated, we are actually just consolidating, right? We're consolidating essentially between this high over here and this low, okay? Because we've actually shown weakness on both sides, right? Because when I say weakness, I mean giving us a clear indication of strength. So like up here, we break out, it's actually a fake out, we manipulate, we trade lower, back inside the range, right? We form these lows, we trade lower, manipulate the lows, manipulate again, trade lower again, but we show strength, getting a bit back inside the range, right? So we are just consolidating. This is what I keep saying. A lot of people are getting chopped up, but there's actually no trades to take at the moment. A decision needs to be made. A decision needs to be made in Bitcoin. And there needs to be a clear decision and direction. And as I said, there's weakness showed on both sides because we shown strength on the bears here and we're showing strength for the bulls here, closing back inside the range, right? We really want to see one side of the range being taken right now. And this is, I won't go through it now, but it has characteristics of a high time frame seek and destroy model. because you manipulate the highs, you manipulate the lows, and then you should trade in the overall trend of the market of the asset, which is, you know, from a regime, it's still in the daily bull regime and it's still in the weekly bull regime. So, and if you look at it from that point of view, is, well, we manipulate the high, then we manipulate the low. So then we should essentially trade higher. Another thing to keep an eye on is we've had 3 weekly closes now showing weakness at the equilibrium here too, at this level. Okay, so as I said, there is weakness, and of course there's weakness in altcoins especially, but I'll leave that for another video. Right, I'm going to end that there. If there is any questions, then let me know in the comments. Please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. And there are links in the comment section below of sort of Discord and everything like that if you do wish to come and join us. Okay, so ciao.